Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and we're going to continue breaking down the Justin Fields trade. Like I said, I was on my way out, and then I was knocked out all night, which is why I'm up so early recording this. I thought I was going to take a nap, but I guess my body had other plans. But I replayed my previous episode, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought it was a little bit too incoherent. So I was like, let me just jump back on the mic. Now that I had some time to actually sleep on it, and then we got a little bit of news that came out after the fact. Not news, but kind of not news. So anyway. Most of what I said, I think the first time around was, pretty solid as far as how I feel about it. Like I said, it's sad. It's sad what it came to. It's sad how a lot of people were looking at us, and it ain't hard to find if you go into other Twitter spaces or other social media spaces, or if you listen to other people's podcasts, and obviously there's the national media, and you hear how they talk about us, and it's just like, people are like, what is going on in Chicago? Why are these people acting like this? And I'm not even going to sit here and say that they're wrong. Well, let me say this. I haven't been a part of other fan bases when they had the number one pick. So maybe there were controversies when Jacksonville was about to take Trevor Lawrence, or when the Panthers had their first. I'm sure probably was going a lot of back and forth in Carolina last year. So baby Bryce Young isn't a great example, but still, when a team has the number one pick from the outside, it always seems like everybody's excited about it. As far as the quarterback, I should say. But for us, it's very noticeable to people on the outside that we were just fighting. Now, we are in a unique situation where we have, but the thing is, we have a starting quarterback, and then we got the number one pick, but our starting quarterback is just a first round pick. That's really the only accolade. He ain't a Pro Bowler. He ain't an All Pro. He ain't an MVP. He's just a first round pick. And because he's a young first round pick, that makes it a bit of a unique situation. But for the most part, especially if you look at the rest of his draft class, that's how it goes. A team would be thrilled to have the number one pick and get rid of Mac. The Patriots got rid of Mac Jones. They got the number 3 pick. And then, Zach Wilson's still with his team, but it's not a crazy unique situation, but it's a little bit unique. So I give us that. But for the most part, any other fan base would be extremely excited. And so I don't know. It was just a sad state of affairs to how the discourse went. And I say that not just to the Bears fans, but society in general. I talk about that stuff, and it's sad how we cannot have civil conversations anymore. It's a little sad. But anyway, let's break this down in a couple of ways. Let's start with Justin Fields. So again, I will say I feel like I was incoherent last time. What I was essentially trying to say, I was really excited when Justin Fields got drafted. So, how it is online right now, the back and forth, you're a hater. I find it funny because I was one of the first, if not only, outlets really pushing Justin Fields at the time before that draft. And so when we end up getting him, I was excited. I didn't think, I said that they would not give Ryan Pace the power to make that type of deal, knowing that he's on the hot seat. And I was wrong. The McCaskies did, and I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of comments about that. but they gave him the power to do it. So I was going out of my mind. It's not that I thought, it was impossible to get him. I just didn't think that they would give the Bears permission to make that type of move. And so it was a cool time. I was very excited for a lot of reasons. It's because people obviously, as I said, when people are wrong, they just disappear. But there was plenty of people in my comments and all over the world. Bears will never get a black quarterback. I'm like, first of all, we had a black quarterback. Second, what are you talking about? Nope. They're racist. No, I don't care what you say. It's people that still comment to today. I remember y'all saying that the Bears were racist and would never have a black quarterback. So to hear that narrative die was great. And it was just a good time. And so you get into the situation. And this is the problem. People act like multiple things can't be true. And that's why you have such ignorant discourse, to be honest, online. And because everybody wants to live in a black and white and not realize, you can use critical thinking and use nuance. Two things could be true at once. Justin Fields did not have a great foundation for development. But it's also time for him to go and for us to move on. And people act like when the argument that we should keep Justin Fields starts with, he wasn't properly developed. You're essentially telling me that he should get to stay just because he wasn't properly developed. That's is not how it works. And it's not like I was one like, hey, we got to get rid of Justin, but you look at Ryan Poles and the decision they had to make, and you can't say, well, skip Caleb Williams and all that just because he wasn't developed. As I said from the beginning, I was on the fence because of the assets, not because of Justin Fields. So I'm not going to sit here and say that if we kept Justin, it was just because they didn't give him the proper foundation. So what? I mean, I agree, but that doesn't mean that that's the reason he should stay. And that was a lot of people's arguments, which it just makes no sense. If anything, it makes more sense for him to go somewhere else. I've been saying that since the previous season that Justin should, and I said Atlanta, not this season, last season. I was like, they should probably trade this man to Atlanta. They could really use him. So anyway, that was that whole discussion. But I agree, he wasn't properly developed. Obviously, he was brought into a bad situation where he didn't start at first, but the team, it just really never got its offensive identity off the ground. For as much as people want to say Nagy can't coach, even though he's holding up a Lombardi right now, and you think that a Hall of Fame head coach like Andy Reid just offer him to come be the OC again just for, giggles. No, obviously he thinks the man can coach. So as much people want to say he can't coach, he didn't have nearly the things that it took in Chicago to do the type of things he was able to do at Kansas City. And so they just never had an identity for real. And I'm talking roster and philosophy wise. The roster just never matched. So that was a bad situation. Then you get Ryan Poles, who everybody is applauding. And I'm not a hater on Ryan Poles. I'm just calling it how it is. The man gutted the roster to tank. And for some reason, I still got people arguing with me about that, saying he didn't gut the roster. Yes, he did. I don't know what world you could even make that. I don't know what world you could even make that argument. He gutted the roster. And I literally said in the off season, it's on this channel. Go check it. It's all evidence right here. I said this man is ripping the roster apart so we can tank. And that's what he did. And so Justin Fields got thrown out there with a tanking roster. One of the worst O-lines I've seen. Definitely one of the worst receiving cores I've seen. and he absolutely developed bad habits. And I guess what's weird for me is that people are throwing stuff at me that I already said. And so it's weird to have, even if you didn't hear me say it because you weren't listening at the time, whatever, it's still weird for people to tell me about Justin when I'm the one that was telling everybody about Justin while it was happening. So Justin ended up going down a trajectory that I said from the very beginning. And so the problem is people want to make that a blanket statement and just say, well, that's what it was. And it was a large part of it, but there's no mistake. This year, it was much better in terms of what was around him. And of course, because we didn't go and produce the way we wanted, people are still going to try to lump this year in with last year, saying, oh, what do you expect? All he had was DJ Moore. That is not all he had. And with this O-line, how could you? The O-line wasn't as bad as last year. It wasn't the worst in the league. To be honest, two of the O-lines in the Super Bowl were pretty bad. If you take off Thuney from the Chiefs, they were pretty bad. And then the 49ers ranked as a pretty bad offensive line too. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to sit here and try to blanket statement like last year's or this season's roster compares to last year. No, I'll give you the tank year, but this year things were much better. And as I said before, and what I was saying last episode, is that when it comes to evaluation, you just have to find a few plays. And this year, there were more than a few. Last year, I showed you on film, there are moments where you can see, and again, people don't want to literally on film, I told you, this is a play where Justin is able to make the play and he doesn't. Despite what it's this person's fault. No, this is Justin's fault in this play. But people want to look at it as an aggregate, and they just want to, and that's not how football works. It's not just by the game, by the season, it's by the play. And so when these teams sit down and they have somebody pull up or put together the film package, they're going to look at specific plays in which Justin had the time to throw. He had an open receiver to throw to. He had a good pass concept, and Justin didn't do it. And so, as I said before, when I'm talking about the draft, free safeties is one of my favorite examples. I could watch 6 games of a player, and only one time did I see him go from the middle of the field to the sideline efficiently. That's all I need. That one play was all I needed. Because now that I know you can do it, it's my job to coach you up so that you can do it consistently. And so obviously quarterback is a lot more complex than just that one skill set. But for a free safety, again, that's just an easy example. Because there's a lot of distinction between safeties, who's a free safety, whatever. What type of range do you have? Once I see you have that range, now I know you can do it. Quarterback, every position is similar. It takes one play or a handful of plays for me to know, okay, you can do this or you can't do this. And so quarterback is kind of the opposite situation. I sit here for 5 plays that I know you have the opportunity to do what you're supposed to do, and you don't. Now I see a consistent pattern. I'm like, okay, I won't say that's who this quarterback is, but that's where they are right now. And so if in a good situation, I'll put it to you like this. If you watch a quarterback throwing at practice, shorts, no helmet, no pads, no defenders, and they kept missing the out route, I don't know if I used this example on the channel or not, but they throw in the out route and they kept missing it. Do you think that's going to get better in the game when there's actual people rushing at them and there's actual defenders? No. So if you can't do something when the conditions are right, it's only going to be that much worse when the conditions are bad. So that's the thing. As far as where he is now, those fans that say you can't fully judge Justin Fields, I disagree with you. Yes, you can, and it takes professional football minds, scouts, coaches, all that to be able to do it. But yes, you absolutely can. Now, can you grade him out as a career or all that? No, I don't think, and I'm more favorable like that. I don't call people bust often, and I think the way the term bust is used is incorrect. I'm more favorable to circumstances than people. Like Kevin White. To this day, people call Kevin White a bust. And again, this is why I say a bust is more of a GM term, not a player term. I'm like, Kevin White didn't even play. How can you say, like, it's one thing to be like, oh, that pick didn't work out, it was a bust, but it's another to be like, Kevin White sucks. How do you know he sucks? He didn't even get to play. So no, you can't evaluate like the entire career of Justin Fields yet, because he didn't have a chance, much like a lot of these quarterbacks that are thrown under the bus. But to say that there's not enough evidence to know what he is right now, that's not true. And people don't get that twisted. They're talking about what you are right now. That's what the league is. The league is week to week, day to day. They're firing people. No, it's not right. Yes, it's the owner's fault. Yes, this trend started a while ago, but that's the world they operate in. And so they're looking at what you are right now. That, as far as veteran players, this isn't about, oh, well, Justin could be great, so we're going to pay for that. No, they're paying for what he is right now. And so and I'm talking more in terms of the league, the Bears, from the perspective of the Bears, that's kind of Justin Fields. To wrap up Justin Fields, yes, obviously he has physical talent, as I always tell you, is physical ability. There's football IQ, there's technique. Yes, he has physical ability. Football IQ is not there. Technique needs work. And so, yes, he has some tools, but he's not there right now. And the Bears didn't help with his growth, and that includes Ryan Poles. Yes, both of those things are true. Doesn't mean we have to keep him. So from the Bears' perspective, it's not shocking to me because, as I said, the one line that really sold me before the offseason even started was the GM, the anonymous GM, that said you don't want to be the guy that goes down with somebody else's quarterback. And that really stuck with me. How Ryan Poles feels about Justin Fields in terms of being a quarterback, I don't know. But what I do know is that thought of having your opportunity to be a GM and going with somebody else's quarterback is 100% real. And so if I had to go one side or the other, gun in my head before the offseason, that's where I would have went, because that made so much sense to me. That is how that's how our society in America goes. And so, yes, you got your shot. You want to do it your way. And you want to pick your quarterback. But on top of that, this ain't the 2021 draft or whatever that draft with Kenny Pickett. This ain't that draft where it's like, oh, these quarterbacks are terrible, but we're just going to force it. And obviously the league didn't force it. But this ain't that draft. If that's what this was, we'd be having a different conversation. The fact is, you have an elite prospect, and you have some really good quarterback prospects. So yes, this is the opportunity to pull the trigger and do it your way. So that to me isn't shocking. The little bit of news that we got, that I saw when I woke up, I should say, is that Ryan Poles said, and really he didn't have to say this. I was kind of shocked he said it, but he said for the last few weeks, they've been trying to trade Justin Fields. And I'm so happy he said that. I'm extremely happy he said that, because even though obviously they didn't like Fields as much as all these, crazy fans were trying to make you believe, they still would have held on to that. They still probably would have held on. Well, he wasn't shopping. It was just going to be more miscommunication. And so I'm glad that he kind of nipped that in the bud. Now, typically, I mean, I don't recall a lot of GMs that do that, but he did that, and I think we'll be better for it. It's much like I said in the episode about how he mishandled this situation, which is kind of crazy that I put that out the day before he traded Fields. But as I mentioned in that, when you set those expectations and you leave that interpretation open, people are going to fill in the blanks, and they're going to fill in the blanks on different sides of the coin and start an argument. And that's all that's been happening, because he never had to leave that door open for people to have that argument, but he did. And this time I think he at least cleared that part up, because you had this ridiculous rumor, this absolutely ridiculous, which is, now this is what people do. It started out, what Ian Rappaport said is what he said, fine. But what the fans take it and twist it into is, we were never even listening to offers. We were never trying to trade Justin Fields. You guys got fooled. And it's like, do you really? And so people start talking, the media and people who are in the NFL, and they're like, do you really think that they weren't listening to any offers? Then the fans changed. Well, I didn't say they didn't listen to any offers. He just wasn't shopping Field. What does that even mean? What? So anyway, so they keep trying to walk it back. But now we get the confirmation, yes, they were absolute. Not only were they listening to offers, they were shopping him, however you want to say it. They were doing all of it. And they weren't getting what they thought they could have got. Poles didn't say that, but it's obvious that they would have made a trade if they had the compensation. Well, I shouldn't say it's obvious, because at this point, I don't know what part fans will jump onto. So I will acknowledge that there is a possibility that nobody gave them a better offer than the Steelers, which would be incredibly sad. And so now this was the best offer they finally got. But I think it's more likely that they were getting offers better than what the Steelers offered them, but they felt was too low. And then they got left out of the musical chair game, and almost got left out of the game completely. Pretty much you did, any type of real compensation. So now Justin Fields goes lower than pretty much anybody, I think. I don't know. I don't have all the trades in front of me. But as far as his draft class, is it just Mac Jones? No, Trey Lance too. He got traded. But Justin Fields goes for a pretty low price. And I see a lot of argument about the trade. Like, from that perspective, that's what the market was. I don't understand what people want him to do. That's what the market is offering you. I mean, it ain't like I'm sure that wasn't what he wanted to trade for, but that's what it is. Not only did the league look at Justin Fields lower than us, but you waited so long that now the price is super low, because everybody else, there's nobody else in the market. And so it's the Steelers market to tell you what you're going to get for Justin Fields. And because you prioritize getting him out of there, you're going to take what you can get. And so I'm looking at this trade, I'm looking at this trade and kind of the whole offseason. But now as I talk about it, I'm gonna be honest. I really feel like I was spot on with my analysis of how he mishandled the trade, because I don't see a scenario that makes sense where this makes sense. Like, as I said in that episode, if you were keeping Justin, which obviously wasn't the case, you come out and say you keeping Justin, or you say the plan is for him to come back as a starter. If you weren't keeping Justin, like you absolutely didn't want him, that trade should have been done at the combine. Take what you can get. 6th round pick, okay, whatever. But if you're on the fence, which I think they were, then again, I feel like you all of this to say you needed to move quicker. You just needed to move quicker. And so for me, I look at this and I'm like, I don't know that Ryan Poles did the right thing. So there's that. Now, lastly, from the perspective of going forward, again, I leave the possibility open that we go with a quarterback that's not Caleb Williams, but the high probability is Caleb Williams. And I'm going to say this. I would say this is the last time I'm going to say it, but it probably won't be. But I really hope it is the last time I got to say it, at least on the podcast. I'm sure I'll have to comment to people because they're going to keep popping up. But this is hopefully the last time I got to say this. Caleb Williams, in general, or any prospect. Number one, this is not about translation. It's about projection. So as we continue to hear people bring up how he looked, or he didn't play well as last year in college, or he I heard somebody on the radio say this the other day. He wasn't even a Heisman finalist last year. Okay. He didn't win a national championship. Look at his stats. Just know as soon as you hear that, you engage it with somebody that does not know how to actually evaluate players. So just leave it alone. Just leave that conversation alone, because this is not about copy paste. This is about projection. This is about growth. This is about transformation into an NFL product, not picking up a college quarterback and telling him to play like a college quarterback. That's not what the draft is about. So that's every prospect in general. So as we go forward, we're going to hear a lot of that. It's silly. It's silly. You're going to hear a lot of people that I watched the highlights. I'm not impressed. Okay. That is literally that is like one of the dumbest statements to me. Like, yeah, you can watch highlights. I'm not saying you're dumb if you watch highlights, but if you think you're gonna come around having a loud, authoritative opinion because you watch some highlights, that's not what a player evaluation is about. So either listen to people that actually evaluate, or just wait to see how he plays in the NFL. Don't base your entire thoughts on Caleb Williams off some highlights. And once again, even as you watch those highlights, it's about finding the plays, every play, to see how you do it, not what you do, and how we can translate that or project that and build that in the NFL. So there's that. About Caleb specifically, the medicals, only because we got a new channel troll that kept bringing it up. I'll bring it up because I think I mentioned, not a big deal to me whatsoever. It's not like he told the Bears, oh, you can't look at the medicals. No, it was every team. So there's nothing where he's trying to get away from Chicago. In terms of, is he hiding something? He's doing medicals at his visits. If he was going to hide something, he would not do the medicals. Like, obviously he's not hiding something. None of that is a big deal at all. And so moving on from that, as far as the argument that he paints his nails or he cried, to his mom or that he whatever on the sideline, those are I almost don't entertain those conversations. All I can say is that is a very silly way of trying to evaluate a player. So to sit here and say all these people that say he's not mentally tough to be in Chicago, you have never met Caleb Williams in your life. So I don't even understand why we having this conversation. But people gonna say what they want to say. So those are my main points with Caleb. I feel like I talked a lot about him, and I'm sure I'll talk about him more. But I've talked to you early on just on the evaluation part, and then I've talked about all these narratives too. So again, there's a possibility we go somewhere else, and that's fine. But Caleb is probably the heavy favorite. And as I said from pretty much the beginning of when I started watching him, this is a rare prospect. And this is coming from somebody that watches this stuff every year. And, you know, because you always get those why are you talking about the quarterbacks? We have a quarterback, like, if, you know, the last few years. Because this is not a Bears draft channel. It's just a draft channel. I actually look at the entire draft. And so I've been looking at quarterbacks for a long time. This is a rare prospect. And so the noise you're going to hear is the noise you're going to hear. To be honest, every single detractor from Caleb Williams has given some of the worst reasoning I've ever heard, i.e. the painted nails and all that other stuff. Like, I've never sat in a football conversation and heard such weak evidence to argue against a player. It's turning into draft day. Like, now, honestly, you know, as much as I love Draft Day and it's just a silly movie, I would be a little concerned if nobody came to my quarterback's birthday party, but it's turning into that type of stuff. And so I just, you know, I won't entertain too many of those conversations. But for you, I'm suggesting that as you hear those things, those are weak arguments, and just leave them alone, because those people who really don't know what they're talking about, to be honest. All right, so that is it for me. Go down to the comments section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Remember, stay up and bear down.